chair now recognizes Mr. Jordan for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Birx, why should Americans believe anything the government says about COVID? I mean, last summer, President Biden said this, quote, "You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations. If you're vaccinated, you're not going to be hospitalized. You're not going to be in the ICU." Dr. Birx, can vaccinated people get COVID?
Yes.
Have vaccinated people been hospitalized with COVID?
Yes.
And according to your testimony, it wasn't just President Biden who said things that were not accurate and were not true. In your testimony that you provided the committee, you said beginning in 2021, so beginning in the Biden administration, again, these are your words, agencies provided muddled and contradicting information or partial information that implied we knew something we didn't, which they later had to correct, which accelerated the loss of respect and trust in the federal government. So I'll come back to maybe my original question. Why should we believe anything the government tells us about COVID?
Well, that's why, to be honest, that's why I wrote the book, and that's why I believe that this is a moment in time where we can increase accountability and transparency and provide that data and information in real time to the American people so they are empowered with the knowledge that they need to protect themselves and their families. We knew early on in January of 2021 and late December of 2020 that reinfection was occurring after natural infection. Once you see that, and I want to make it clear to you all and to anyone that is listening, this is not measles, mumps, and rubella. Those vaccines produce long-term immunity and can create herd immunity.
So I just want to interrupt for a second, Dr. Birx. You said something important. You said in early 2021, January 2021, you knew that people who had been vaccinated could be reinfected.
I knew that people who were naturally infected were getting reinfected, and that was quite evident from South Africa, and I've included it in my slides. But I think the reason I knew that is South Africa did a remarkably good job in measuring baseline antibody with their first surge. And so they knew 50, 60, 70% of some of their population had been infected.
Well, here's what I'm concerned.
And then were reinfected.
Well, here's what I'm concerned with. Let me ask the question this way. When the government told the American people, that people who had been vaccinated couldn't get it, were they guessing or were they lying?
I don't know. All I know is there was evidence from the global pandemic that natural reinfection was occurring. And since the vaccine was based on natural immunity, you cannot make the conclusion that the vaccine will do better than natural infection, although it can often do slightly better.
But I think that's, I mean, you're an expert. You were on the task force. You were part of this effort when you were in the previous administration, and you're saying in this administration that you can't rule out the fact that our government was lying to us when they told us the vaccinated could not get the virus.
I don't know about their discussions that they had in the task force. So I can't tell you that. I can tell you as a family member who had individuals that were susceptible, of course we got everybody vaccinated, but we still used layered protection during surges because I knew potentially the vaccine immunity would wane like natural immunity waned. And there was evidence that every 4 months reinfection was occurring in South Africa.
Wow. When the government told us that the vaccinated couldn't transmit it, was that a lie or was that a guess? Or is it the same answer?
I think it was hope that the vaccine would work in that way. And that's why I think scientists and public health leaders always have to be at the table, being very clear what we know and what we don't know.
This is important for the country to know. So when I asked the question, when the government told us that the vaccinated couldn't get it, and I asked you if it was a guess or a lie, you said you don't know. You said you think it was hope. So what we do know is it wasn't the truth. So they were either guessing, lying, or hoping, and communicating that information to the citizens of this country.
I think they were hoping, but you should know in those original phase 3 trials that were done in this country that we only measured for symptomatic disease. So we weren't proactively testing everybody in those trials to see if they got infected with mild or asymptomatic disease. And so people had to present within the clinical trials. We never had the data that it was going to protect against asymptomatic infection.
I'm just struck with the irony. We got government agencies guessing, hoping, or lying with the information they're presenting to the American people. And this is the same This is the same administration that wants to set up the Disinformation Governance Board and wants to talk about misinformation. And they're the biggest purveyors of misinformation, false information, hopeful information, but not accurate and true information, which is, again, the frustration I think so many of the folks I get the privilege of representing have shared with me. When the government downplayed natural immunity, was that a guess or a lie?
We're only beginning to okay, these are complicated answers, so I'm going to try to be very brief. Once you are infected, you're putting immune pressure on that virus. And so we know viruses always mutate, and they mutate to escape something, like immune pressure, virologic pressure. And that's why you always have to be looking for evidence of reinfection so you can understand what epitopes on the virus are under extensive immune pressure. So you can map that and design next-generation vaccines and next-generation therapeutics. You'd like to find epitopes that are constant, that the virus can't mutate from, or it loses its ability to actually infect and replicate.
Thank you, Dr. Birx. Mr. Chairman, I just think this is amazing. Our government, guessing, hoping, or lying, one of those. But what we do know is they weren't telling us the truth, weren't telling the American people the truth, and it started right with the President of the United States just 11 months ago when he told us something that was absolutely false. With that, I would yield back and look forward to a second round.